Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today we are actually going to focus on Anadrol, but before we get into that, I have to remind you and reiterate that I am not a doctor. So whatever I tell you here is used for your entertainment purposes only. I'm not insinuating nor advising you to use anything that I discuss in any way, shape, or form, and what you do with this information is completely up to you. So let's just real quickly, I want to give you a little bit of background on Anadrol. I like to do this with compounds just so you kind of know just where they come from, why they were developed, just little facts that are nice to know, as opposed to just knowing, how to use them, etc. Sometimes people like to know the history on it. Originally it was called oxymethylone, all right, just so you know. Anadrol is just another name for it, or A50. It was developed by Zoltan Pharmaceuticals. They don't even exist anymore, and this was actually way back in the 60s. Now, due to the ignorance of the time and the lack of other alternatives, Anadrol was actually given to children. It was used to help with muscle growth in patients that had some malnourishment type of issues and growth problems, and also it was given to osteoporosis patients and anemia patients as well. Now, in time, and I'm thinking that it wasn't too long a time here, but this is just literature that I've studied and read. It became pretty evident that the side effects of Anadrol were so harsh that some patients that had some muscle wasting diseases and etc. then developed liver problems. Shocking. And an alternative drug was actually discovered as a replacement. Now, a few decades later, Anadrol was actually resurfaced, and it was used to help people that were suffering from HIV and AIDS. But I gotta think that it didn't take long to realize, hey, the side effects are pretty bad here. We shouldn't be giving these to children. In bodybuilding, Anadrol actually gained most of its popularity due to the shameless promotion by Dan Duchaine. A lot of people will call Duchaine, the father of modern underground steroid movements and things like that. And I'm sure many of you have heard of him, but he touted Anadrol as a cheaper alternative to D-bol, and possibly with more bang for your buck. And in fact, people that know who Dan was or have heard of him heard the rumors that he actually self-injected Anadrol by brewing it in his house. I don't even know if that's true. These are just rumors, speculation, which I don't get into that. I'm just telling you what's been said. He might even have had one of the first, UGLs, which is an underground laboratory in United States history. Once again, speculative. I will always tell you if something's speculative or fact. But anytime that I hear something or whatever, I do like to just pass it along and tell you exactly where it came from. It was also rumored that Dan actually died as a result of kidney disease that he developed because he was, testing and using too much Anadrol. Once again, speculative. So, what is Anadrol? Let's get into the facts instead of the speculation. Anadrol is in the dihydrotestosterone steroid group, or DHT. But don't let that fool you, okay? Unlike, your favorite DHT cutting steroids, your Winstrals, your Anavars, your Primobolins, things like that, you are not likely to use Anadrol to get lean, all right? Nothing's impossible, but it's definitely not in the likelihood or realm of possibility. Some people will stay dry with it, while some people won't, but this is a bulking steroid. Now, it's really interesting here because it's just a small change to the chemical structure, all right? And it can make so much of a difference because realistically here, the only major change to Anadrol is done with the addition of the 2-hydroxymethylene group. Now, that's to the chemical structure, but the outcome with Anadrol being one of the most hardcore bulking steroids on the planet is something that surprises a lot of people that kind of understand structures and get into that scientific aspect of anabolic steroids. It has a pretty poor ability to bind to the androgen receptor like most DHT-related steroids. And in fact, a lot of studies out there have shown that, its binding is so low that it's hard to even determine the level of it. So you can compare it to Winstrol when it comes to, androgen receptor affinity. In addition, it cannot convert to estrogen, and it's not a progestin at all. But there is a belief in scientific circles that it can somehow stimulate the estrogen receptor, but it hasn't been fully studied. And there's a lot of confusion out there on this, and there's a lot of theories, but there's no proven facts, because people do report spikes in estrogen, and people do have water retention, but it doesn't convert to estrogen. Listen, there's a lot of theories. I'm not going to sit here, because of the video I have to cover other things. I'm not going to go over every single theory, but nothing is proven. So don't let anybody tell you, oh, this is a fact, this is a fact. It might sound good, and hey, it might even come out to be true, but there's nothing actually proven on why it actually can have estrogenic side effects or stimulate the estrogen issues. So I'm not going to sit here and BS everybody and tell you this, this, and this, and this when I don't know and no one else knows if it's actually true or not. I just don't do that. So quickly, let's take a look at Anadrol versus D-bol, because these are the two most commonly used bulking oral steroids out there. It's a common question. It doesn't really ever get resolved, especially in powerlifting circles. Now, the reason is simple. 70% of Anadrol users are more likely powerlifters who look for maximum power and maximum strength with not so much of a care in the side effect realm. So take a look around your gym, all right? You see big, bloated powerlifters and a really puffy red face. That's Anadrol talking. More than likely. I mean, obviously not every single person in your gym is juicing, and I don't like to even make that insinuation, but let's face it, there's a lot of people that are. Milligram of Anavar is at least twice as powerful as packing on mass as D-bol is. That's just a fact. A lot of people might argue that, but the mass isn't always pretty. Sometimes you can get bloated and puffy, but you're strong and you're massive. D-bol is definitely extremely strong, and I'm not taking anything away from it, and it's definitely on par, but Anadrol is stronger. Most people will tell you that, but a lot of people that don't like Anadrol can't handle the side effects. If you're into powerlifting, you want to get super strong, super fast, Anadrol is probably what you're looking for. On the other hand, if you're looking for harder gains, and maybe less side effects, you go with D-bol. Now, D-bol obviously converts to estrogen at an extremely high rate, and it's kind of like apples to oranges with these two. I mean, you're not going to really go wrong if you're trying to bulk with either one of them, but if you're super, super estrogen sensitive, just remember that D-bol converts to estrogen at an extremely high rate. And I'm going to do a separate video on D-bol and talk about that as well. When it comes to bulking, though, Anadrol is going to be way at the top of the list. It's going to be a favorite for many. Some people are going to like D-bol and DECA. Anadrol is going to be a favorite of many. So let's talk about the side effects. Anadrol comes with a lot of them. All right, it does. It's simple. Here's a list. Blood pressure, liver, kidneys. These things get slammed. Anadrol is supremely toxic. Supremely bloated face. That can occur. It's possible for gynecomastia, acne, things like this. It's just. A lot of people struggle to even make it through 4 or 5 weeks of Anadrol, which I generally tell people don't go over 4 weeks. Let's talk about the dosage. The dosage, a lot of debate there on that. If you're a first-time Anadrol user, well, first let's just take a step back. Anadrol is not a beginner steroid. All right, you're much better off in your earlier stages of steroid use to go with D-bol instead of Anadrol. And I like Anadrol way better than D-bol. But let's keep it real. Anadrol is not for a beginner. It's just not. Okay? So D-bol would be a much better option for you if you're in, the first few, cycles that you've ever ran. Now, 50 milligrams is general dosing of Anadrol, which is pretty common, pretty standard. People do go up to 100. I generally recommend first-time users start at 25 milligrams at least 3, 4, 5 days, if not a week, and then decide if you want to bump up to 50. Because let me tell you something right now. Don't ever buy into somebody telling you you're not going to gain anything on 25 milligrams. That is absolutely absurd. That is meathead talk. That is bro science talk, and that is complete garbage. I get really frustrated with that when I see a lot of guys that are maybe pros, bodybuilders, whatever, telling people, oh, you can't gain on this, you can't gain on that. These guys are freaks of nature in size. They may not see the results on that, but the everyday average person will see the results on that. And the everyday average person probably cares a lot more about their health than a lot of pros do, because they're in that moment trying to get to whatever they need to get at whatever means necessary. That's not for everybody. That's for a select group. Start at 25, bump it to 50. If you feel really good on it, because some people handle the side effects a heck of a lot better than others, then maybe consider going to 100 or maybe your second time through. But don't fall into that trap, please. The half-life of Anadrol is around 9 hours. So, you know, it might be beneficial to take it twice a day as well and split your doses. So that, my friends, is Anadrol. I want to give you the full education on that, the full rundown, all of the facts. So that being said, www.icearms.com/forums. I'm also on the Evolutionary Forum as well as the Elite Fitness Forum. Dylan@icearms.com is my email, so send me all questions and comments in there. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli, signing off.